Well, first of all, I have one of the best or the worst slots in the whole day. It's the best one because I get a chance of actually seeing what everybody else has said and try not to be repetitive. The worst is the attention-keeping level. So I'll try to keep it as interactive as possible. And so please also interrupt me during the presentation. You don't need to wait for the question and answers to ask me a question if it is relevant to what I'm saying. And I'm starting with one news, which is not a news, that the world is changing. You say, yeah, what's the news? The news is if you don't change with the world, you will be set aside and lose your relevance. And for a brand, that's not a very nice thing. So what I want to share with you is how we try to cope with the change that we had in Philips. And my experience in the past 2 years has been the head of a consumer market intelligence organization for a company that it is actually all about technology and not consumers until some time ago. Now, the quick question is, what do we really know? The business space is faster than ever. Are we ready to cope with this change? Consumers are taking a more active role in defining what they want from the markets. Are we really leveraging those consumers? Market research, the traditional one particularly, very good at describing and measuring the reality. Is it actually really capturing a forward-looking perspective? Can it anticipate consumer behaviors? Do we have the right strategy for the marketing department and for our strategy department? Do we have the right capabilities to actually make a difference in those marketing programs? Well, as you know, you have to go well beyond the obvious to understand. And by the way, I chose this picture because this is where I sail in Italy on Garda Lake. It was a nice dawn, fantastic day, you can see. Is it going to be a nice day or not? 2 hours later, there were 30 knots in gale force on the lake. So it is not as it looks if you go more in depth. A couple of words about our company. I hope probably most of you know what Philips is, but in case you don't, the company is a single-branded company, which is the promise of sense and simplicity to consumers, and deals mainly in the area of health and wellness. Now, you say, how do you deal with TVs and health and wellness? Well, there is a very strong link, and in fact, by listening to our consumer, we found that powerful link. We also are very much consumer-focused. We are focused around customers, markets, consumers, and also around our people. And in fact, we did put consumer insights at the beginning of all our innovation funnel. And I'll get to that. Consumer lifestyle, which is the part of the company where I work, is more or less a third of the total Philips business, which also has divisions in healthcare and lighting. And the lifestyle is defined for us as making a difference in the way people live their lives. We have businesses in the area of looking good and feeling great, about sharing experiences, about enhancing the home, and about living a healthier and more rewarding lifestyle. The company has undergone a tremendous transformation since, I would say, 6 years, more or less. It truly was a technology company. All CEOs in the histories of Philips have always been coming from either corporate research, which is technical, lab research, or from R&D. So you can understand the power of marketing was felt more as project management than actually consumer focus. What the company did is basically 360 degrees or 180 degrees change towards being market and consumer oriented. And it started defining, first of all, the area where we have, where we want to play and where we may have a difference versus competitions, which is actually health and well-being. And we started from the consumer perspective of it. We started to try to understand what actually does really health and well-being mean for consumers. And based on that, we declined that health and well-being into 4 different platforms, which we define growth platforms, around which we have actually clustered our businesses. So this is more the way like consumers are going to look at the categories or the group of categories that we play in than what would have been just a technical definition of the categories. And in fact, we work around 4 categories, which is healthy living, personal care, home living, and interactive living. And that's how our businesses are clustered. But now, research is a journey. But current standard research gives you the measurement of this journey. It can help you track the progress. Is it going to help you to set the objectives? So where are you going? Is it setting the course for this journey. To do this, you need to go a lot more in depth. You need to capture really the meaning of consumers, but you also need to have different capabilities in your organization. And the researcher needs to travel this journey together with the consumer if he wants to understand where this is going to lead to. And ultimately, you need to put the man at the center. The current crisis terms have taught us a very important lesson that actually the system is not anymore leading, but people are leading the system. But this is not anything that should have been come as a surprise, because the phenomenon was already enduring since some time. Consumers actually were reappropriating of the role, redefining the way they look at the market. If you think about social media and the news market, already from years through the coming of the new social media platforms are actually really reappropriating of the role of creating the news instead of being told what the news is. And this is happening in the classic economy as well. Markets are not anymore numbers on a board. They are made of single consumer choices, and these consumers are willing to redefine, reconstruct, deconstruct the market the way they want it. And this is a powerful change. And that's why it all starts to understand. I mean, you need to understand the consumer insights that actually drive your business to be capable of tapping into this change. Now, we have seen a lot about this. What is the healthy balance between measuring and validating, i.e. looking backward in your research, versus exploring or understanding the forward-looking component and the emotional component that ultimately is going to drive the business? Well, you have to do that using many different methodologies. You cannot just expect that classic research will tell you all the truth, but not even modern techniques will tell you all the truth. I think you need to use a healthy components of both of them. You need to still continue validating and understanding how big the ideas that you're working on are, but to find better ideas, then you can go to all of the tools that, for instance, John was mentioning from the Me2We type of techniques or services. I think we in Philips are using all of these techniques. We are using consumer co-creation. We are starting to use in predictive markets as well. We're looking at capturing much better the emotions in the way we test. And we do actually do a lot of mass ethnography and also ethnography to unlock new ideas and potential new business territories. If you don't capture the emotional component, you're not going to get to success in business. For perspective, we have a community with Sensorium, which is across European and today also non-European countries, made of 200 male and 200 young females, adults. And we use the community, for the classics, so for ask feedback on our own idea, but we actually also pose more fundamental questions like, what is the fundamental meaning of health and well-being for you? Show us what you do, when you iron. And instead of asking questions, we ask actually them to propose themes to us so that we can leverage the power of having a continuous relationship with the consumers. On the other side, all starts from insights, but we validate insights, and we validate that in a quantitative way. We have developed with BrainJuicer a tool which aims at highlighting, first of all, what are the factors that make insights successful. Basically 5 factors: excitement, relevance, freshness, truth, and clarity. And we cluster these factors in 2 axes, which are the axis of resonance, which is excitement and relevance of insights, and an axis of edge, which is about being new to the market, true and clear. And we look at the scores, along these axes of our insights, and we validate them according to these metrics. We currently have tested around 600 to 700 insights, out of which we have validated 200. And now those are more than enough, actually, for keeping our business healthy, giving purpose to our categories, and also guiding new developments. And this is an example, and in fact, I said I was not going to give it away when we were talking about the juicer. First of all, I thought it was nice, to put a juicer, having BrainJuicer as one of the hosts. And what is interesting about this project is that this was launched originally as the most powerful engine for juicing. 600 watt versus at that time the most powerful engines were around 450, 500 watts. Well, fine, we had some sales, had a pretty nice design, interesting, but it wasn't going as well as we wanted to. So what we did is we actually rethought and, we checked with consumers what was, that we were doing with the juicer and why a more powerful engine would have helped them. And what we understood that it was not about the power of the engine, it was about having a healthy lifestyle. The fact of having a powerful engine was supporting the idea of extracting more vitamins and more juice from the fruit and vegetables you were squeezing. We turned the positioning around, and this became one of the hits. It's probably the SKU we sell the most in Philips, and in Europe only today we have almost 2 million juicers sold, which is, for a durable appliance, is quite a lot of juicers around. So this is what unconventional research can lead you to: redefine what you thought was right and give that that component to your innovation. This is, in fact, how we look at innovation. All starts from having a proper consumer insight, which not necessarily is a new insight all the time. It can be an existing insight, but it gives the purpose of the initiative. Then we move on, define the concept, test the concept quantitatively. Then we define the prototype, test the prototypes as well, and then we launch to market, and we get feedback through a loyalty measures, which is the Net Promoter Score system. And we work on two planes. On one side, we're using classic quantitative research to validate and move on. On the other side, we're using community, consumer observations, ethnography to enrich the process with learnings, with insights, and with insights also on the execution, not the classic consumer insights as well. Now, you need to capture the depth. You need to decompose the element that constitute truth, recompose them, and enrich their meanings. What is important for research is to acquire the capability of looking forward and not just backward. In Philips, we are using that particularly in two areas, which is actually the areas where you would expect it less, because those are the market data crunching areas, and market intelligence and competitive intelligence. Well, we say, okay, market intelligence, you normally get your shares, you get them 6 weeks later, if you're lucky, for some countries even later on. And they are a typical backward looking. You try to manage them, but by the time you have feedback, it's way too late. So one of the things we introduced is the forecasting system to actually use that data to predict what is going to happen in the near future. Another technique that we use is wargaming, which we use to redefine competitive intelligence in a completely different way. We look not only at reporting what competitors do, but we play back competition using their known strategies, their techniques, their strengths and weaknesses, and we actually redefine our actions according to the possible counteractions of competition. And this is also another way of looking forward. But it requires a change. Before this tool was used in Philips 2 years ago as soon as it started, but it took me 2 years to actually get it to popularity and get it to full usage within the company. So it's not easy work. You need to have a receiving end on management that actually sees opportunity and understands the power of what you will be doing. Now, relationship is important today. We are moving away from a brand equity to a relational equity for brands. We are in an experience economy, and this means that actually you're building a relationship with your consumers, with your brand or services, at every touch point of the experience. And the point that research needs to understand is how do you measure the value and the potential of that relationship, and what are the gaps in the experience. And you can do that only if you actually really go way beyond and step into the emotional sides of your consumers. Because consumers will answer rationally, but ultimately they behave emotionally. And to capture that, you need to have a healthy balance between the two sides. And on top of that, you can also move toward equity building research, and I think Jan was mentioning this before. Leverage research on a continuity basis, on a relationship with your consumers, to actually propose your brand value and turn consumers in brand ambassadors. That's something that we achieved through the community, for instance, that we're using, where people are really enthusiastic about working for Philips, so they feel part of the company, and they're actually going out there and tweeting and blogging about products and how cool we are, which is good. On top of that, the new market research department has to stay relevant, has to keep management on focus around consumers and customers and deviate from any other internal energy-taking issues. The role of research today is not only to measure and validate, it is also to inspire business decisions and to propose new routes to management. And to do that, research means we'll have to stand for change. It's pretty interesting because this is a role that wasn't the role of research years ago. But that's what is required by management. That is what brought me, after 3 weeks in the boardroom of the company, after 3 weeks I've joined Philips, because I already spotted out what the issues were and how I could help management to drive change within the company. The mantra was how to become consumer-driven, in fact. And to do that, technical expertise is not enough anymore. Technical expertise is not going to give you an advantage on competition. What will give you an advantage to competition is knowledge, ultimately, how you turn that information in something where you can advise marketeers and management and many more stakeholders on the direction to take. Knowledge that you have to build around how consumers are using your categories and how you can predict, therefore, the behavior of consumers within a category. Knowledge that you can create in the innovation pipeline on unlocking new insights, proposing new business directions. So research cannot stop anymore. Validating needs to have an active forward-looking direction. And ultimately, the cultural component is research needs to really drive the consumer-focused culture within the company. It is where the knowledge to do that is. And last wine reference, you need to invest in your people. You need to invest in the people because you need new capabilities. Technical capabilities, as I said before, they're not enough. You need people who actually have capabilities to consult, on top of having the expertise and mastering the meaning of research. And you particularly need people that have the courage to stand for change, that have the courage to recommend change to management. And now some proposals of how the vision is. First of all, there is a solid base, which is fact-based decisions, focus on consumers, having a set of tools and processes which is the right one for your company, and having business technical capabilities. But ultimately, what you want is your organization to become a learning organization so that you can be a partner to management, ultimately to inspire and validate business choices. And the strategy that we are working against is formed in 4 pillars around bringing the consumer and the outside-in perspective into the company, starting with having resources, i.e. type of researchers which are forward-looking, which enable consumer observation, and which leverage social media. You have to have an organization which is structured around the processes. I broke completely through the category silos type of organization, but I organized my consumer department along work streams like innovation, consumer understanding, market intelligence, instead of supporting, televisions versus audio systems. This will facilitate priority setting and will actually enable to engage in multiple stakeholders. The new research department needs to talk to strategy, to finance, on top of marketing, and needs to talk to R&D, to merger and acquisitions departments, or even corporate board members. To do that, you need new capabilities. As I said, develop consultancy capabilities, but don't give up on the technical mastery of research. Ultimately, infrastructures are also needed. You need a good knowledge management system to avoid all the mechanical number crunching and number finding tasks for your department. and also some standardized tools so that you can benchmark the results. Next, you need to define a new way to do things. Interpret research as a strategic function capable to address today's challenges, so that mix between backward-looking, forward-looking, validation, and emotion. Needs to build culture, needs to drive change, and needs to empower the consumers. And this is my part.